Welcome back, I am Captain Xavier, and today we're going to be working on finishing up a commission that has been lingering in my queue for far too long. It's a Stampede with an integrated Sledgefire commission. I had never seen one of those. I've heard it's been done by somebody, but I haven't looked into it. I thought it was a really neat idea, so we're going to give it a try. The first part we're going to be doing, obviously I've finished the paint job. He wanted green with silver accents, and I went ahead and did the Nerf logos and some of it in orange to kind of go with, you know, all the orange stuff is going to be staying orange. So a very, a fascinating combination. I think it actually came out looking really nice. First step is obviously going to be putting the internals into the Stampede, which will also include the upgrades to the Stampede. That video was recently requested, so we're going to be doing that. And then as soon as the last part of the Sledgefire finishes drying, the part that actually has the functional mechanism on it, I will be doing the mod on that, and then we get to work on the integration, the actual what connects the two. Haven't quite decided how I'm going to do that. Probably just going to bolt them together. So let's get started. Internals first. So obviously pretty much everything has been stripped out in order to do the upgrade, or to do the paint job, and now we get to go through and put it all back together. Part of modding a Stampede, or at least part of the way that I'm going to mod this Stampede, is lock removal. Now the Stampede, like many of the N-Strike blasters, has an inordinate number of arguably unnecessary locks. Now some people like to leave the locks in because they, you know, help you not break your blaster on accident, but in some cases they just get in the way. The main one that I very much dislike are jam door locks, because I understand the purpose for them. You know, they don't want a small child to be able to stick their finger into the mechanism while it's firing. I understand that, but I have discovered that if it gets bumped ever so slightly while you're running around, or it hooks on your tack gear and the door gets opened, you go to fire, the gun doesn't shoot, and you get eaten by zombies. So that's one that I definitely remove. I will also be removing 2 of the magazine locks, but I will be leaving in one of them, because it's a bad idea to dry fire a Stampede. So technically, you can still dry fire if you have an empty magazine, so that's not a huge saver, but I leave that one in. But the 2 lower ones that also hold the magazine in place, I remove those because I like the magazine to drop when I pull the mag release, because that's one less step I have to do in reloading. If I don't have to pull the magazine, if it'll just drop out and I can slap in another one, hooray. So the locks that are going to be getting removed, there is normally a switch that gets mounted here. That is a magazine lock, and there is a switch up here that is the jam door lock. I leave the switch in, but I remove the wires, because the switch is what acts as kind of a locking mechanism. So I leave the switch in, but I remove the wires. And so there are not going to be any wires that actually go to the front of the gun anymore. And the only 2 wires that will be going to this upper switch here, which is the first one in the whole line anyway. And it will in turn simply get directly wired to the positive side of the trigger switch. Now we're going to be making a modification to one of the gears, and it's the 3rd of the smaller gears. And what we're going to be doing is strengthening it, because it is actually 2 pieces. And if the gun gets jammed when you have a heavier spring or a heavier voltage, this will actually either pop off or strip out. And then it will just spin freely and the gun will not function, and that's very annoying. I've tried gluing it. I've had it simply break the glue. So what I have taken to doing is actually drilling a small hole from the gear down across into the shaft, and then reinforcing it with a piece of steel. Okay, that is the gearbox upgraded, and hopefully now the soldering iron is hot enough. So what I've done is I've removed the 3 switches, the magazine switch on both sides, and that switch out of the loop, and I've cut down to the final end of it. So we've got the red wire that comes in from the battery. Actually, it's coming in from the on switch, which comes in from the battery. And then we've got the red wire that's coming from the positive on the trigger switch. And that's the only two that we need anymore. Okay. Now we only have the one lock, which is the magazine lock that is attached to the magazine release. Okay, the wiring is now back in. The only thing left is to, secure all of this and attach this to the far side of the gun, which is one of the few things I don't like about the Stampede is that the on switch is on the far side, which, being left-handed, is on the wrong side for me. But it also means that you've got this cable that runs to the far side of the gun, which makes it a pain to work with. But there are worse things. Now to put in the whole firing mechanism. Now to the meat of the matter, upgrading the internals. So we're going to be doing a spring upgrade to both the Stampede as well as the Sledgefire. The Stampede I will be putting in, I believe it is an Orange ModWorks 4K spring, so it's doubling the power. Ire currently runs on a 6K spring, and I have heard that you can easily go up as far as 8 before you start running into issues of the gears breaking. It's a really easy spring upgrade. All you have to do is take the two screws off the back, pull the spring off, put the new spring on, and you're done. Okay, next, the catch mechanism. Now, as we are putting a heavier spring in and we are going to be overvolting it, you will sometimes run into the issue of runaway, where the recoil of the gun, it's firing too fast for the gun to ever actually engage the electronic braking, or it can't overcome it. And the areas that you can add spring to improve this are the catch spring, sometimes the return spring, and definitely the trigger spring in here, so that this pops up faster and engages the electronic braking and stops the gun. So we are going to upgrade those as well, starting with the catch spring, since I seem to have misplaced the previous catch spring anyway. Oh, no, there it is. Yeah, so it is a very flimsy catch spring. And we're going to see what we can upgrade it with. It is still long enough. Definitely a stronger catch. So, now for the trigger spring. This is the slightly tricky one. Step 1, you have to get this little bracket of metal off. Coiling two of them together, it should still get enough compression to activate the switch. And then comes the tricky part, getting this thing back on. Okay, so we have managed to double up the spring, but it does appear to still get sufficient compression. Hopefully, we'll find out when we go to fire the thing. That is everything on this side of the blaster, other than, the little bits that get put in just before you button it up. There are a few things on the other side. Normally, this other half of the front barrel section actually gets screwed to the left side of the blaster. I, however, prefer not to do that, because it's not structurally necessary, and by simply screwing it to this side of the gun, but not that side of the gun, you don't have to take out all of these screws if you end up having to take the gun apart for some reason. And I had to take Ire apart many, many times, so the fewer screws I have to put in and out, the better. That brings us to the Sledgefire, so let's go see if the other half is finally dry. Alright, other than a little bit of detailing, which I can do afterwards, this side is done. These little dots will get painted in silver. Sledgefire and the screws will get painted in silver, but other than that, is done. So we can go ahead and do the modifications to the internals here. Now, to get to the spring in this one, you have to get the catch mechanism off, which I discovered you can do by compressing the spring a little and moving it back to here so that you can rotate it, and then it will slide off. And you can take off the stock spring, which is really, really stout. I'm looking forward to seeing what all I can use that in, because it is in fact a little bit smaller than the spring that I'm going to be putting in, which is not K26, but it's very comparable to it. It's actually a little bit has a higher frequency than K26, or a lower frequency. I'm not sure actually which way it really goes. But okay, we will also want to increase the catch spring on this. Alright, a bit of a jump. We are now working on one of the last bits of the electronics of this blaster, which is the voltmeter. And since the user is right-handed, it will be going on the left side of the blaster, so he can simply tilt the blaster and look at it. And I'm going to put it right here, the same place I put it on ire, which is going to require me to Dremel this out a little bit. So let's get to that. Next step is to drill 2 holes on either side to go through the little holes here to hold it in place. The voltmeter is mounted, and the wires run up to here. Because it is on the left side of the blaster, I am going to put in a socket just to make it a little bit easier to get it over to the other side. That's all wired up. It'll plug into the far side of the gun, and we need to put the other side into the other side of the gun. It needs negative and positive. Let's see if we can figure out where the easiest place to plug this in near the handle is. We want it to be on the far side of the power switch, so the voltmeter should only be on when the power switch is on. Negative can just go directly in, so we can splice it into any negative line. We need to splice the positive into the powered side of the switch, which would appear to be... yeah. Test it and see if I manage to get it right on the first try, which would be very nice. I did! Sweet! The gun still fires? The gun still fires. That is all of the wiring done. The only thing left is to figure out the barrel release. Now, the way I currently have it set up, you pull this lever and it releases the barrel. The problem is, as I may have already mentioned, the spring tension is too high and the barrel does not fall down on its own. You have to pull it down, which means you need 2 hands to reload the front gun, which really doesn't work because you've got one hand holding the gun. So I found a simple but I feel elegant solution. I cut a little notch so that you can now lock the priming or the barrel release mechanism. Then one hand ratchet it, put it back up, and then you simply have to release it before you fire. There you have it. Voltmeter lights up. No runaway. We are good to go. Still need to put all the rest of the screws back in. I just wanted to make sure it worked before I did that. And I do wish to reinforce that a little bit. It's a little bit wobbly. I want to tack it down right at this point. And I'm not sure if I want to do an external strap from here to here, or if I want to try to put an inside bolt in. All right. That is going nowhere. And since it's silver on silver trim, I don't think it looks too bad. Alright, the detailing is done on the main gun. The only thing that is left is the shell holder, which I believe he wanted to be rail attached. I'm not sure. I assume he would want it on either the top or this side so that he can get to the shells with his offhand. But it seems to be working. perfectly well. I'm gonna get down the chrono and see just how good it is. Alright, so it is averaging about 80 feet per second, which is not bad for a Stampede, if you ask me. Voltmeter's working, gun is working, Sledgefire is working. Really can't chrono a Sledgefire because multiple shells are going to mess with the chrono, but it works. So, this is done other than the shell holder, which is still drying, and yeah. That's simply a matter of adding a reverse rail section. Normally on mine I used a recon sight, but I don't have any more spare recon sights. I'll come up with something. I think I've got some Nerf to Picatinny rail adapter that I could sacrifice for the cause, and that should work pretty good. But just need to paint the shell holder. It's going to be green with silver accents, of course, just like everything else. And then this thing is ready to ship. So, to the fine fellow who commissioned this, if you were watching this video, go ahead and let me know if you think it is good enough. And if you do, then I will ship it as soon as the shell holder is done. So, if you have any comments, concerns, questions, ideas, thoughts, go ahead and leave them in the comments section below. And as always, thank you for watching.